For those who have followed this channel for some times now, I have always shouted my lungs out about the people who are governing our country. And I've always maintained that Kenya is being governed from White House. Our President William Ruto is just a conduit who is taking instructions on what to do. And I will prove to you from the events that took place last week where our youths were butchered that the same elements were officiating and were responsible for the deaths in Kenya. Allow me to take you back. In 2022, when William Ruto realized that the former President Uhuru Kenyatta had abandoned him and they were not going to move together, William Ruto knew where power is hidden. Because William Ruto was there in 2027, when Raila Amolo Odinga won, they were together in ODM. William Ruto was supposed to be a prime minister. Raila was supposed to be the president, and Musalia Mudavadi was supposed to be the prime minister. So after Raila won the elections, the late President Mwai Kibaki didn't steal but robbed that election. And the country was burning in flames everywhere. In Nakuru, in Mombasa, in Kisumu, in Nairobi. And then when the USA realized that things were getting out of hand, they quickly convened a meeting and they forced Raila to become the prime minister. As Kofi Annan was trying to broker a peace deal, William Ruto was on Raila's side together with Musalia Mudavadi, Sally Kosgei, and on the other side people were like Martha Karua. And William Ruto saw power drifting away from them because of Raila's personality of being a statesman. And he said, okay, this is how power is being taken. In 2013 and 2017, they were together with Uhuru Kenyatta. And they saw what happened when Chris Coons, the Delaware senator, came and forced Raila into a handshake, all in the name of being a statesman. Raila's magnanimity and his ability to work and forgive those who have stolen his victory. I hate that personality with Raila, even though it has really saved lives. So William Ruto was the deputy, and he saw how they took power. And from then, he had sworn that he would become the president of this country because he knew how power was being taken. And so in 2022, he knew that Uhuru was not with him. Uhuru was with the deep state. William Ruto rushed to White House and they signed a deal with the Western powers. And it came at a cost. They were to help him ascend to power. And after getting his victory, he was to ensure that he allowed LGBTQ. You know what has happened in our country? Through the Supreme Court, it has been declared that the LGBTQ community has got a freedom of association. You know what that means. He was to allow GMO, genetically modified organisms. Immediately he was sworn in to power, he lifted the ban that Uhuru had placed for 10 years. He was to suspend all the subsidies. He did that immediately he ascended to power, and they were claiming that they cannot continue subsidizing consumption because it is not sustainable economically. They were going to subsidize production, and that is why they bring fertilizer that has been donated free to them by the Russian government, and they sell it to farmers at a subsidized price. And so they were to abandon all the subsidies on unga, on electricity, on fuel, everything. And number 3, they were to increase taxes. And they were to abandon working or getting loans from the Eastern superpowers like China and Korea. And William Ruto has done that. He became a darling of the West. You saw the number of delegation that came from the USA when William Ruto was being sworn in. And you saw how William Ruto was given reception when he got invitation to go to the US. You've seen how he's being used, taking our policemen to Haiti. Now he wants to take our soldier to one of the countries. I don't know, I'm forgetting the name. So those were the things that William Ruto was to do. As we speak, ladies and gentlemen, USA implemented their part of the bargain. They ascended William Ruto to become the president of Kenya, courtesy of Meg Whitman, who was in Bomas during the tallying and verification. William Ruto has implemented a few, but there are a lot that he still needs to do. Like he wants to sell our state corporations, including our seed corporation, to Bill Gates. He wants to turn this country into a GMO nation. That's why they want to control your land and everything, and animal feeds and everything. Now, one of the things that he was supposed to do was to ensure that he hikes taxes, because the Bretton Woods institutions had instructed the IMF and the World Bank. Now, a friend in need is a friend indeed. But the IMF has abandoned William Samoei Ruto. They succeeded in passing the Finance Bill 2023. Of course, people went to the streets and all that. They used a lot of propaganda that Raila wanted to kill their businesses. In the Finance Bill 2024, all these were dictates of the IMF, and they were sitting there presiding over every article, if you didn't know. Now, if you're doubting, as William Ruto was conducting public participation, they had known that Kenyans did not like this kind of bill. But just like it happened in 2023, they thought this was going to be very easy. The IMF is said to have also done their checks and balances, and they had done their own investigation, and they knew it was going to be a shaky event. But then they advised Ruto that people are going to fight it, but ignore it. And I want to read to you something that is very, very pathetic. It was reported that the International Monetary Fund, IMF, had predicted that there would be protests against controversial tax proposals contained in the Finance Bill 2024, which it backed, but asked the state to stand firm regarding the new revenue-raising measures, even as it assessed the risk as medium. That they knew that people were going to resist, but they assessed and they said no, it is not going to be very serious. It's just a normal, running battle with the police. According to the IMF, it doesn't matter when our children are dying on the street. If they die like 100, to them, that is the medium risk. According to them, if there is bloodshed like that of a river, then that is serious. But when police kill, some 20, 50, to them that is normal. That is a medium risk. So they advised William Ruto that yes, people are going to reject this, but be firm. Can you imagine a foreigner coming into our country, an autonomous country, and dictating our president, telling him, we know people are going to go to the streets and they are going to resist, lakini wewe simama imara, kaa ngumu kwa watu wako, watu ambao unasema walikupigia kura, walikuchagua. And then they say the multilateral lenders' assessment of the risk turned out to be off the mark, as street protests led largely by the youth turned deadly, forcing President William Ruto to return the bill to Parliament with a recommendation to drop all clauses on Wednesday. The IMF, in its latest report on Kenya, had foreseen unrest arising largely from the political opposition, but asked the government to remain committed to what they had signed. And I want you to get the picture here. I have mentioned to you that we are being ruled from the USA. When William Ruto was given the power, he was supposed to align himself to all the demands of the IMF. Now, I want to repeat that it is very painful that William Ruto cared so much about the IMF. Now look at it this way. The NIS had informed him that the magnitude of people who will be on the street will be just so much, and it is going to be problematic to the police. So William Ruto had a choice. Was he going to listen to the NIS, or was he going to listen to the IMF? So it was the NIS, National Intelligence Service, versus the International Monetary Fund. They had told William Ruto, hii itakuwa too medium. But the NIS told him, this thing is rising. The youths don't like it. People are suffering. So William Ruto, as usual, decided to go with the Wazungu. He decided to go by the report or the advice from the IMF. And you saw the result. The police was overwhelmed, even though some people are telling me that was a ghost law. They didn't want to kill people, yet people were killed. I don't know. So people got into parliament. They destroyed property. They enjoyed the meals that have always been enjoyed by the parliamentarians. And William Ruto decided to now bring the bill back to parliament. But then, ladies and gentlemen, there's something that is being said here again. That IMF, when people were protesting and they were saying that their next move would be at Meg Whitman's door, because the people now know what is happening. And they're saying the next step will be Meg Whitman's door, the USA embassy, and then IMF offices. Now the IMF is telling Kenyans, it's reported that IMF response to Kenyan protest, ask your government. Hiyo si kuacha mwenzako, hiyo si kuacha Ruto. IMF response to protest, ask your government. Uliza, tunawambia nyinyi ndio mmeleta hizi shida zote, mnafanya watu wanakufa. Then they say, hapana, uliza rais wenu, yeye ndiye amewaua. That is what the IMF is telling us. Sisi hatujawaua. Ask your president. And in a way, they are right. Because they never forced William Ruto. It is William Ruto who went to them. William Ruto told them, unaona Uhuru na Raila na Kibaki wamekuwa wakifanya kazi na wa China. Mimi nikiingia nitafanya kazi na nyinyi. So, they are telling us, ask your president. Sio sisi. Yeye ndiye anajua kitu alifanya. In other words, they're telling us, wao washafanya kazi yao, washampatia urais, sasa yeye ndiye anafaa, obey is part of the bargain. And awatetei Ruto wamemwambia, we are not relenting. Even though people are dying on the street, sisi tunataka kitu ambao tuliwaambia. In this video, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you 3 reasons why William Ruto is in a quagmire. He's between a rock and a hard place, and why he must implement the IMF dictates whether he likes it or not. And I'll be very quick. Kindly subscribe to our channel if you're watching for the first time. Click the notification bell to allow YouTube to notify you. I would ask you to give our video thumbs up. Thank you for your continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, William Ruto is in a very precarious situation. Kenyans don't like him. He's not reading from the same script with his deputy. If he messes around with the international community, if he tries to abandon IMF, it is clear they will fund his deputy, and that will be the end of Ruto. Sometimes we have to say it the way it is, because we know the way the IMF, the way US works. We know they will fund the deputy, they will support him, or they will support Raila Odinga. They will support an opposition, because William Ruto knows in the first place that he didn't win. He negotiated that power, and that is why Meg Whitman was in Bomas. So he knows he has to lie low. He has to dance to their tune. So that is number one why he cannot ignore the IMF. He will definitely bring back this bill. I want you to know it from where you are. He will. Because if he doesn't, he's sitting at a very precarious political moment. Raila is there with the opposition. Gachagua naye halewani na yeye. Either of them can be funded. Read about Magufuli. Number 2, this was a deal that was signed pen to paper. And so he has to agree to it. It was a deal. He went to them. Number two, part of this deal has been met, like the GMO, the first part of the IMF schedule has been implemented. We are only remaining with this more taxes and wage bill. Wanataka kuachisha watu kazi. You need to know that. So if he agreed to the first part of it, he cannot fail to implement the second part. He has to. It was a deal. Number three, the IMF and the US have performed their part. They gave William Ruto the victory. They have given him protection and all that. Meg Whitman has defended him against attacks from the opposition and Kenyans. So he's the one remaining with this part of the bargain. Yes, he has to. The last one, if William Ruto plays around, they can abandon him and pick someone in 2027. Like I said, they can abandon and pick. These international institutions will just decide, we want someone who can work with us. Will tudanganya, you deceived us that you'll work with us, but now you're overwhelmed. If William Ruto says that, you see, people are, rioting on the streets, he will be told, okay, let us get someone who can manage them. It is very sad that IMF was presiding when our people are being killed. They underestimated. They said it would be medium. Medium does not mean that it goes without killings. It goes with killings, but killings that they feel is not too much. Yani wewe unapolia pale mtoto wako amekufa, according to IMF, hiyo ni kidogo tu, watu hawajakufa wengi. I have told you that we are not exercising our autonomy. And this is because we have a president who negotiated power. He does not have his people, the interest of the people at heart. He is listening to the IMF. Those who have been doubting me, please open your minds. It's now all over. It's being reported in the international media, local media. It is in the open. We are being governed by neocolonialists. Neocolonialism has come back and it is worse than colonization. I don't know what you think, but our next step, if people have to go to demonstrations, is at the IMF door. Even though they are now telling us that, ask Ruto, we know Ruto is under siege. There's nothing he can do. He's been captured. They signed a deal. So we are not going to ask Ruto. We are going to ask IMF to leave us alone. We are going to the embassy to ask USA to leave us alone. We need to govern ourselves. We know what is good for us. Corruption is the end of the day and wastage. When people speak and go to the street, they are killed. And then IMF tells us that that is a medium. I mean, how many more people do they want to die so that it can be a serious one? It is sad. But William Ruto regrets the dalliance with the IMF because he's been abandoned. That's my take.